Welcome to Sovereign Soul Radio. Here, we cultivate conscious conversations to support those of us who are healing and awakening now. I am Ivy, a consciousness steward and holistic practitioner, and please join me in these conversations that are so necessary for our transforming human reality at this time. May we all leave these conversations differently than we came. Where we go one, we go all. And so it is. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Sovereign Souls podcast. Today we are talking about your first colonic experience, what to expect, how you can prepare, how you can get the most out of this experience, and also have it be as graceful, as educational, as comfortable and fruitful as possible. So this episode is ideally made for my future colon hydrotherapy clients. As I still keep a little bit of my schedule open to work with people with colon hydrotherapy. But this episode is also for you, even if you're not going to come to me for colon hydrotherapy, but if maybe you're going to go to somebody else, depending on where you live, or maybe you're just curious more about the process, about what to expect, and even a lot of the information that I provide in this episode is so valuable, even if you are never going to get a colonic, but you simply just want a little bit more information about your bowels, about your own digestive tract. There's going to be a lot of good stuff in here for you anyways. So please come with me and join me on this very interesting episode. And especially if I have personally brought you over here to listen to this episode because you're going to be doing colon hydrotherapy with me and experiencing that, please listen to the totality of this episode, as I'm literally doing this all just for you and me, and really so that also we can keep our first session together a lot shorter. Normally my first session, because we go like deep into health history and I really want to provide you as much value as I can, my first sessions often take about like 3 hours or so. So honestly, I want you listening to this podcast so that we can be a lot more effective with your time and money in your first session. Okay, thank you so much. Let's talk more now. So for the people that are brand new to colon hydrotherapy, let's talk about what it is. So colon hydrotherapy is also known as the high enema or colonic lavage, or simply a colonic. There's multiple names for it, and basically the brilliance of enemas and the reasons why they're necessary. This has been something that's been literally known for thousands of years. So when we look back at pretty much all ancient and indigenous cultures, they always have some form of enema for physical healing reasons, for emotional reasons, for spiritual reasons. It's been known that the bowels is really what controls the physical health of the body, but as well as the emotional and spiritual forces. The bowels are a huge part of this. So looking way back in time, we're talking ancient Mayan cultures, we're talking to the Roman cultures and Greek cultures, and we're going all the way back as far as ancient Egypt. So over 5,500 years ago, this is how long intelligent humanity has been doing enemas and bowel cleansing for the sake of health of all systems of what it is to be a human being. So colon hydrotherapy, or like enemas, were very popular straight through like the 1800s and into the early 1900s. And then we have, after World War II, big pharma, so the pharmaceutical industry that's when that really took root. And then it used to be that you go into the hospital with any type of illness or ailment, first thing that happens is an enema, because an enema is going to clear out most all issues, because over 90% of our health problems all begin in the gut. So normally you'd go to a hospital, you'd receive an enema, turns out everything's okay, you go home, it's all good. Since pharmaceuticals came into play, turns out that making money on laxatives and stool softeners, you keep people constipated, you keep people with problems, and you generate a lot of money for the industries. So now, unfortunately, this brilliant, easy, simple, holistic perspective and method for healing the body by just getting rid of the crap that gets accumulated in the body, this has by far fallen by the wayside. And that is literally a tragedy for everybody, because we are all quite full of residual waste material. And that's where all of our immune system problems come from, and a lot of our neurological problems and hormone problems and allergy problems, and of course, obviously, our digestive problems, mood imbalances. Like, everything is so tied to the gut. And if you check out other episodes, which I will link in the show notes, you can find the episodes that are going to teach you the things that you want to know when it comes to your gut. Okay, so enemas, colonics, high enemas, colonic lavage, colon hydrotherapy, all the same name. But basically what it is, it's the gentle, safe infusion of warm, purified water into the colon. And this happens multiple times as we fill and then it gets released. And then we fill and it gets released. We fill and it gets released. And as we keep hydrating and softening what is inside of the colon, we are brilliantly hydrating the body, but we are also softening whatever loose or whatever hardened, impacted residual waste buildup that has happened in the gut. We start loosening that so that it softens, and then the natural peristalsis, so the natural contraction of your colon, because your whole digestive tract is built of hollow, very strong muscular organs. As your colon starts to contract to release the water and waste with it, we at the same time as loosening old fecal waste and hydrating the body and boosting the immune system, at the same time we are also toning the colon as a muscular organ so that in the future you can have a stronger digestive tract, stronger metabolism, and therefore make good poops readily, effectively, and efficiently on a multiple times a day basis. And that's ideally what we want to happen. So colon hydrotherapy is just this gradual, slow, safe, and gentle infusion of warm, purified water into the colon, which is just the last 4 to 6 feet of your digestive tract. So it's also known as the large intestine, and you only have 2 intestines. First, we have the small one that happens after your stomach. Small one is about 22 feet long. This is where most of the absorption happens in the gut, in the digestive tract, but a lot of it still happens in the colon. So after your small intestine, we go into colon. And there's a valve called the Ileocecal Valve, and this is what separates the small intestine from the colon. And so generally this valve is going to be closed, which stops the water that we're putting into the colon from going all the way up into small intestine. So all of that is perfect. But that's basically all that a colon hydrotherapy session is. It's just warm, purified water into the colon, and it's released out and in and out. And it's just this gradual in and out, this waving and this undulation of how we very safely but very efficiently begin cleansing the body of everything that is built up over time. So with a colon hydrotherapist, generally, and you want to make sure about this, that a colon hydrotherapist should be certified, they should be insured, and they should be using medical type 2 devices that are FDA approved. So we should be using real, very intelligently designed devices that assist the colon hydrotherapist in safely removing waste from your body. Some colon therapists have kind of rigged up their own devices. Whoever you go to, make sure that you're doing your homework. I personally use a Tolo, which is a closed device. It's a closed system, which means that there's a disposable speculum that goes into your rectum. That part's really easy. We'll talk about it more. But it's disposable hoses. Everything's plastic. So unfortunately, we are creating some waste, but we have to make this waste in order to get you healthy so you can be the person and the soul that you're here to be, okay? So, but with a closed system, it's basically that the water goes into you through a special little intake line, like a little water hose, and then all of the waste comes out through a thicker or a wider hose. Then all of that goes through a viewing tube, then it goes down to the sewer. But the great thing about this is that you get to see all of the stuff coming out of you, which gets magnificently interesting as you get into later sessions of your colon hydrotherapy sessions, because it's very much a cumulative process. But you get to see everything coming out without any mess and without any smell. So that is super duper about going to somebody that does have a closed system. So colon hydrotherapy, providing that we're making sure that we don't have any contraindications for therapy, which I will go over later in this episode, it is a very safe, gentle procedure. It is very safe, very gentle. You are in control the whole time, and it's really amazing. Really amazing. So we'll go into in this episode like all of the how you participate with me, what to expect, what it's going to feel like, and all of that. So before we proceed into all the important things that I want you to know, first, let's talk about what colon hydrotherapy is not. Because this is one of those things, honestly, that you get Googling it, you're going to hear a bunch of shit that you don't want to hear. And honestly, stuff that is inaccurate. So when it comes to colon hydrotherapy, for the people that have truly done this in their body and more than once, because of course, like if you got, 30, 40 years of built up waste in your body, that first time it's like, of course it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. We're opening up the sewer of the body and stirring shit up for the first time. So this is something that absolutely you need to try twice to truly get a feel for what you're doing. But this is so dang important for all systems of the body that it's like everybody needs to be doing this, needs to be at least trying this. But for what you see online about things like this, it's like you're going to hear horror stories from people that actually don't know what they're talking about and haven't experienced it before. Okay, so this is something that like you want to be discerning and diligent with understanding and learning about what this is, because again, like this is how we remedy so many different types of health symptoms. So what this isn't, there's an old wives' tale of somebody that was perforated with colon hydrotherapy or that electrolytes get imbalanced. And like, these are not the things that happen when you make sure that you don't have any contraindications. And when we make sure that we are doing the proper prep for our body. And then we also make sure that we're going to a practitioner that is very well experienced, well educated, and walks the walk, really, not just talks the talk. We want to go to somebody who really understands all of the ins and outs of this therapy. Somebody that's seen pretty much everything possible that can happen, okay? Because this is a very safe, gentle procedure. People can go literally like 4 weeks, 6 weeks without having a bowel movement. Their bellies don't rupture. They're packed full of waste, to let that contrast what we're actually doing here. What we're actually doing here, again, is just the slow, gradual infusion of warm, purified water, very, very slowly. And the colon tissue is so strong. Like I've heard firsthand that from autopsies, that if you actually like feel a human's colon, it is like thick and rubbery. Like think of like a tire, like rubbery, strong like that. And when you picture somebody that does have a distended abdomen, maybe that's you, maybe that's a loved one. Regardless, when we have a distended abdomen that is in like that firm, tight fullness to it, it's like that's not all fat. That's poop. That's poop and food stuck in there and impacted, So you think of how much internal pressure most people's digestive organs, well, like their small intestine and especially their colon, is already experiencing. Really, like to truly just think about it. A little bit of warm, clean water so that we can soften that and start removing that. Like that's the thing that everybody's bellies are needing right now, okay? So contraindications for colon hydrotherapy. We are talking, we don't want to be doing therapy for sure if we're having kidney failure, renal failure, if we're having cirrhosis of the liver, if we have any cancers currently, if we have recently undergone chemotherapy, because that's going to weaken our tissues, which is a really, really big no-no if we're doing colon hydrotherapy. We also, we want to refrain if we've had any recent surgeries or abdominal surgeries. Also, if we have epilepsy or bouts of psychosis, and also for uncontrolled hypertension. So if our blood pressure is uncontrolled and if it's over 140 over 90, and if we're not medicated, that could also be an unsafe place for us to be doing colon hydrotherapy. So generally, though, most people are perfect candidates. Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, those are often also typical contraindications for colon hydrotherapy, as well as hemorrhoids. But that's kind of a catch-22, because honestly, like, those are the situations that need colon hydrotherapy so that they can heal. However, it's more so that we want to do it in a very intelligent way when there are currently no flares happening, no rectal bleeding happening. And in most states, you're going to need like a doctor's note for that, but not in all states, and also I believe not in Canada. So regardless of the situation, if you have anything going on that you think might be a contraindication, you just want to call your local colon therapist first and have a really, really good talk about it, okay? A colon hydrotherapist should be able to give you a really intelligent idea about that, and you can always call somebody else if you need a second opinion, okay? So now that we've explored what are contraindications for this, let's talk what are indications for colon hydrotherapy. And the list is pretty much infinite, because again, like, your colon and what is in the colon, that is where auto-intoxication starts. So basically where the waste that's stuck within our own bodies in the colon is continually putrefying at body temperature. That's insane. Okay, it's not frozen, it's not at room temperature, it is cooking at body temperature. And so there's residual leftover in everybody's guts, just because, like, we're stressed, we're not drinking enough water, we're not moving and breathing as we ought to, we're overworked, we're underplayed, all of that. Plus then, like, what is the quality of food that we're eating? How drying or how hydrating is it? How well are we chewing? Are we slowing down? Like, there are so many reasons in this current society why we get buildup of waste in the gut. Also remembering, though, that most ancient cultures, the really wise ones, all utilized enemas anyways, and that's at a time when food was not nearly as adulterated as it is now, obviously. So there's still need to purify the body. And, some people say, well, that's really unnatural. Why would we do that? And it's like, well, you brush your teeth, because you get food residue on your teeth, which really your mouth, and this is going to sound gross when I say certain things, but I'm just going to say things the way that I understand them. And your mouth is the top of the poop tube. You got your mouth hole and you got your butthole, and everything that happens in between there is going to determine your degree of physical health, of mental health, of emotional health, and believe it or not, also spiritual health. So, is it unnatural to brush our teeth? No, it's understood that if you want to have good oral health, you got to put in a little bit of effort as a human being and show up and clean your teeth. So same thing with the bottom end of the body, okay? Same thing. As it is above, so it is below. So, is colon cleansing, is it unnatural? Actually, no. Like warm, purified water, there's nothing actually unnatural about that, okay? What is unnatural is, the degree of toxicity in our world through our food, through our water, through our air, through vaccines, through pharmaceuticals, through recreational drugs, through stress. There's so much in that way that, people that aren't familiar with colon hydrotherapy yet, they can kind of scoff at it when it's like, you're just simply not understanding the game that we're playing here, okay? So back to the gut is that 90% of all disease symptoms begin in the gut, right? You've got over 80% of your immune system is nestled into your colon. Get this. Over 95% of your serotonin is manufactured in your gut, not in your brain. So serotonin is that really good feeling neurotransmitter like dopamine that keeps us all feeling pretty happy and pretty sane. You think of the massive amounts of our population that are on antidepressants right now, and those are SSRIs generally, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and that creates a huge burden on the body and mind when really it comes down to our gut health if we're having serotonin issues. And that's one reason why colon hydrotherapy or enemas actually create more optimism in your life. And on the same note as having more optimism, we also want to note that what pollutes the bowels, because the average healthy looking person, so your average healthy looking human, easily has about 5 to 25 pounds of residual meals or literally fecal matter left over within the digestive tract. So that's one more reason why you do lose weight typically when you're cleansing out your bowels. That's because you're actually losing mass that's been stuck in you. And of course, mass mass has weight. But to come back to mood balances and that relation to the gut, it's like scientists, researchers know at this point that the gut and the brain are so intimately linked that the gut, your colon, is also often frequently known as the second brain. And so you have more neurons, so nerve cells, in your colon than you do even in your spinal cord. That is incredible. So, the brain and the gut are so intimately connected through the enteric nervous system. So really, what is going on in your mind has so much to do with the information that's being processed in your gut and what the ecosystem of your gut is. So another reason why we generally become happier and more balanced adults, and less agitated and aggressive and less pessimistic, less depressed and less anxious is often because what we're releasing from the gut, what we're actually cleaning out, is stuff that drastically affects us emotionally and energetically. So when we're cleaning out really decent amounts of excessive yeast and candida and parasites and bad bacteria, and even like mucus that holds all of that stuff together, it's like parasites and yeast, they both give off neurotoxins that can absolutely affect the way that the brain is functioning. And then at the same time, anytime that the gut is more permeable, therefore like leaky gut, which surely you've heard that term before, and that's literally that the gut becomes inflamed and thus leakier. When the lining of the gut becomes leakier, and therefore what should be staying in the gut can now leak outside of the gut, the same thing happens with the blood-brain barrier, which are the extra thick blood vessel walls of the blood vessels that are in your brain. Normally, those thick blood vessels in the brain, they want to stay very intact so that they're very discerning of what is allowed to enter the brain from the blood as like an extra precaution for the body, for anything entering the brain. But when the gut is more leaky, that extra barrier, that extra thick barrier in the brain also becomes leakier. So therefore, when we've got gut inflammation, that generally also equals brain inflammation in a human. And so with brain inflammation, we're talking about moodiness, agitation, mood swings, feeling foggy, feeling unclear, feeling just like really lethargic, and even having like headaches and migraines. Those are all just symptoms also of brain inflammation. So again, pretty much anything that we're ever going to talk about with health, we're going to have to come back to the gut with it, because again, the gut is the home of 90% of diseases. So like normally almost all of our junk all starts with the gut, okay? And so a little bit more about why us cleansing out our guts is so important, because like the gut and brain connection is so important that most of your lymphatic system and therefore your immune system is in your gut is very, very important. But also, your gut is supplying all of the nutrients, nutrition to your blood. And then your blood is going to circle that around all of your body and then fulfill the needs of your approximately 50 to 100 trillion cells. Okay, so really the operation of everything is reliant on the gut feeding the body nutrition and information. Okay, and then your whole body, as it's doing its thing all day long, every day, all of your cells are also creating waste byproducts, just because your body's being a body doing what it needs to do. So in the body, your lymphatic system, it's kind of like the garbage waste disposal of your body as well as the immune system. So as your blood is supplied with nutrition from your gut, and your blood's going to take that great nutrition like the kitchen of your body, it's going to take it all over your body, feed all the cells. Then your lymphatic system, so think the lymph nodes that you notice in your throat, in your armpits, in your groin. Well, you've got a bunch of lymph nodes all over your body, more than 1,000 of them in your gut. And that lymphatic system connected in between all the nodes collects all of the garbage from all of your body, because all your cells, again, are making little waste products as they do little things. So your lymphatic system is going to go and collect all of that waste and bring it down to the gut so that it can purge into the gut and therefore eventually get into the toilet. So also when we have inflamed guts that are have impacted waste stuck in them, we're really suppressing this function of the lymphatic system and the immune system as well. So when we think of how most people clearly have less than functional immune systems, that's a really big indicator of gut stuff going on right there as well, okay? So we need the gut to be well so that the immune system can function properly. You know, when we take care of our guts, we very rarely get ill. In the last 2 years, I had a bout of food poisoning. In the last 3 years, I've had a bout of food poisoning, and one time when I was traveling, I caught a cold. You know, like that's kind of it. And also when your gut is well, when you do get some type of illness, you get over it really quick, you know, because the body is just stronger, more resilient, and more adaptable. And that's ideally the place that we want to get all of our bodies to. So, all in a nutshell, what is going on in your belly, in your gut, is really affecting like all aspects of you, okay? So, we're talking about moods, emotions, obviously, your cognitive functioning, how alert you are, how clear you are, how focused you are. We're talking your sleep, allergies that are seasonal, chemical, food-related allergies, environmental stimuli, everything to do with your immune system, all inflammatory and arthritic conditions, all types of digestive issues, pretty much all types of skin issues, liver congestion, asthmatic conditions, sinus infections, women like menstrual issues, PCOS, endometriosis, even like prostate cancer in gentlemen, like really pretty much everything that can affect any part of you. It's going to come down to gut is absolutely playing at least a pretty decent role in it. It's quite impossible for things to be any other way unless, again, you've had like some acute incident or accident. And because everything is so linked to your gut, when you do start cleansing your body and getting your gut right and you embark on that path, you do really want to start paying attention to your body. With my clientele that I've worked with over the years, we always start, honestly, quite immediate, like definitely after the first or second session, we start seeing the little things start to change. So we start waking up your own communication with your body. Like you look at a food or you put it in your hand, and maybe this is something that you normally eat. Maybe it's something that you would typically even crave. And suddenly it's like you just genuinely, you can feel that your body doesn't want it. There's no emotion around it. There's no willpower around it. There's no mind games about it. It's just like literally you're that much more in tune with your gut already that you have a really clear communication with body of what do we want, what do we need, and what do we really not want right now. And I've seen people put down habits of sugar, of alcohol, of sweets, of deep fried food and fast food, like just overnight, simply because they did something really good for their gut and it stimulated their own connection and wisdom with their self for the first time. So when we start cleaning out the gut, often we automatically notice differences in that it's like we're feeling more clear, we're more energetic, we're sleeping better, like quality sleep. Often we're waking up more energetic and just like feeling more alive and bright. Normally, bloating starts going away really quickly. I hear of like appetites changing, that we're not so hungry for junk anymore, or we're like we've got like an actual craving for good things. Moods are changing, alertness again, and definitely what it feels like in the abdomen, what it feels like to be moving. Clothes can start fitting better or like fitting differently very quickly as well, because typically in a session, like I have some of my clients that actually weigh themselves before and after session, which, I mean, you know, for the sake of science, it's pretty interesting. And especially considering that generally when you're leaving a colon hydrotherapy treatment session, you still have some water in your gut and your body has absorbed a decent amount of water. So considering you've got more water in you now, which has weight to it, I still very frequently see clients losing between 1 to 7 pounds in a session. And so a lot of that is just junk in the trunk, waste that has been stuck in the body. So of course, when your body is used to mitigating that type of inflammatory, acidic, toxic environment day after day after day after month after year after decade for a lot of us, when you just suddenly start releasing that shit so that it's like no longer burdening your body 24/7, you start to feel quite a bit different pretty darn immediately. And so honestly, like that's just one more reason why this is such a tremendously incredible investment. Like like every colonic that you give yourself, or every enema that you give yourself at home, because I'm going to teach you how to do that too. Because it's not all about just going to colon hydrotherapists, if you're on a budget, and you can absolutely do so much of this work at home for yourself. And so if talking about all of this, if this makes you a little bit more curious about what you've got going on in your body, what you can expect to reap as benefits from colon hydrotherapy, or even just questions if you are a really good candidate for it or not, it is important to give me a call if I'm who you're coming to, or give your local colon hydrotherapist a call. But for more information, my next episode uploaded after this one is all about your health history and why it matters, and helping you to start really thinking about a detective to understand yourself and your body differently. So check that out. But if you do have questions about your own situation, it's really important that you ask somebody those questions, okay? Because generally this is a really amazing therapy for literally pretty much every single person. And so we want to make sure that it is appropriate for you also and what you can expect. So now let's talk a bit about what you can do to prepare yourself and your body so that you have the best experience as possible with this, okay? So I know a lot of colon hydrotherapists do not get their clientele to do anything as prep. Personally, I'm not quite sure why this is, because considering most people have gone decades on this planet without really doing much for like true bowel cleansing, and most bodies have like a decent amount of toxicity in them and a lot to release. To me, as a practitioner, I want you to spend a little bit of time and effort getting your body ready for it. Why? Because number one, it's going to make it easier for you. It's going to get more out of you. Literally, it's going to get more out of you, and you're going to get more out of this experience and out of your dollars. Also, it's just far safer. This is a very safe procedure anyways, but we want you to be comfortable so that you can tap into your body's wisdom and tap into the drastic difference after one session so that you can understand why your body wants and needs you to come back for more. Okay? Because if we've had 20, 30, 40, 50 years of somewhat of a toxic lifestyle, and we go into one colonic without even doing anything to help prepare our bodies, it's going to be less comfortable. It might be more toxic feeling. We do want to put in the effort to really show up for ourselves, because again, when we're affecting the bowels, it's you're not just going for a colonic and then the work is done after the colonic's done. It's no, we're starting a whole new process in the body of detoxification, of rebuilding. So when we give you that colonic, you're going to go home that night and your whole body is going to start reaping the rewards of less burdened toxicity and greater hydration. So after your colonic, you're going home, and do you know what's changing about you? Your blood chemistry and viscosity is changing. Your brain is changing. Your lymphatic system wants to be moving. Every system in your body starts shifting, okay? And that's really good and that's really important. But you know what? That's worth doing a little prep for. So I really encourage some prep work, because when people put in a little bit of time and energy to prep, I see it all the time that they have a better time at it. They get the ahas in it, So please come with me on this and let's talk prep. So in some ways, the more time you have to prep, the better. Often I try to get my folks to prep for about a week or so. That's a really nice time frame. However, sometimes if people are just so constipated, they have not pooped in days, I will see them immediately for the sake of getting things moving, and then get them to start the prep work in between our sessions. So prep work is something that ideally you want to be doing for about a week up before your colonic, but then also providing your mindset is to do a series of colonics, because again, most of us have so much buildup in our bodies and it's taken years to get there, that there's no way a colon therapist can undo 35 years of, standard American diet and stress and stuff with one colonic. If I could, amazing, but that's just that's not how shit works, 10 miles in, 10 miles out, even though the way out with this is much easier and quicker than going in. But still, what I'm trying to tell you is that, yeah, putting in some effort absolutely is going to help create this to be a very beautiful, very life-changing situation. So typically, talking a week, but I mean, if you think that you're going for colonics in next month or in a couple months from now, start the prep now, because the prep is just going to get you healthier and better on the way. So generally, when I get people to do prep work, often by the time they actually come in and see me, everything's already doing a lot better than it was. Because again, what we're putting in our mouth holes matters. And especially when we've got digestive issues or diarrhea or constipation, matters so much. So I get my people, number one, all of my clientele, I encourage them so strongly to start drinking more water and pure water immediately. So my choice, if you can't find a really good spring around you, then you'll want to go and purchase distilled water or reverse osmosis water, okay? Your Brita filter, your fridge filter, if we're being really, really honest, that stuff isn't taking out the really bad things that are put into tap water. So really, like, if our goal is to heal the body, to reduce inflammation and detoxify the body, you need clean water going in, okay? Not tap water, clean water. So number one thing is we are drinking more water every single day. I try to get everybody to get to a gallon a day as the goal. So that's about 4 quarts or 4 liters or 16 cups of water. Easiest way to do it is to get like a mason jar, like a quart-sized mason jar, or like a 32-ounce water bottle. You fill that up 4 times in a day and you have met your gallon, okay? So easily is to, get 2 of them down before lunch. Once you get used to it, it's easy. Get another 2 down in the afternoon and then boom, you got your gallon before dinner even came, and it's perfect. So most people's bodies are so chronically dehydrated. So especially like most people aren't drinking a lot of water. Plus maybe they're drinking soda or sweet tea or energy drinks or a lot of caffeine or alcohol. All of those things are very acidic to the body. They're dangerous to the body. And they're going to dehydrate a body more. So we don't really want to be like drinking so much of those things. But regardless, number one thing as I get everybody to do is drink more water. Okay, before we even talk diet, we're going to talk water. Because if the body's dehydrated, like even if you're eating the best food ever, but you are still dehydrated, your body's not going to be able to function properly, let alone detox properly, cleanse properly, heal properly, or rebuild properly. So number one is drinking more water, okay? And then I get people to also begin a daily regimen of every morning of psyllium husks, which is a soluble natural fiber. They are amazing for the digestive tract, and they basically like scrub the whole small intestine clean and pull that junk down to the colon, and it's going to help scrub the colon clean as well, while at the same time the psyllium husks help to feed the good bacteria in the colon. And basically the psyllium cleanse works so well that if somebody is more so like softer stool and diarrhea, it's going to help firm it up to make like really nice logs of poop. Where on the other end, if you're dealing with constipation, it's going to help soften it to make really nice logs of poop. So regardless of what side of the spectrum that you're on, having psyllium husks is a brilliant thing in your everyday life. Just you need to make sure that you're drinking enough water with it, okay? Because if you're not drinking enough water with it or during the day, it's going to clog you up, and that's not what we want. So we have to be diligent with our water again. And on my website, and I'll have a link in the notes for the show, but I've got my protocol that I get my clientele to do with psyllium husks. And the second ingredient that I'm telling you about in this combination every day is liquid bentonite clay. So liquid bentonite clay, it's obviously mixed with water, but it's a dry clay that many different indigenous cultures use as like a medicinal item. So there's many different clays that are used around the world in all types of indigenous cultures, and basically like they're used for all sorts of medicinal applications. So even in our day and time, it's great to have liquid bentonite and even things like activated charcoal in your own pantry or medicine cabinet. I use my liquid bentonite, like I take it internally. I give it to, I put it in my baths, and also like anytime that my cats or dogs are having any diarrhea or vomiting, I actually mix in a little bit of it with their food also, and it works so well. So bentonite clay is going to be really good at calming the digestive tract. It's good at softening impacted waste on the colon walls. It's great at killing off yeast for its antifungal properties, and amazingly, it is so good at helping to gently detox detoxify your body because it holds 40 times its weight in toxins. So it's going to molecularly bind through like different charges with not good things in your body. So it's going to help pull out residues of like pesticides and fungicides and herbicides and heavy metals and all the shit that's put into our food and body care and water and air and everything. So it's going to help bind with that and take it out of your body. If you are as nerdy as I am, it might interest you to know that for 1 tablespoon of liquid bentonite clay, if we were to be able to look at it like on a molecular level of binding area, like surface area to bind with not good things in the human body, in 1 tablespoon of liquid bentonite clay, there is 8,100 square feet of molecular surface area for bonding. Isn't that amazing? That's like the 4 house plans, or sorry, 4, square footages of houses. That's incredible. So anyways, though, when we combine the liquid bentonite clay with the psyllium husks on a daily basis, we are putting down our mouth hole, going down our entire digestive tract, substances that are healing and cleansing and strengthening from our insides. So normally when I have people doing this, we start on half a dose of the psyllium because we do want to work our way up. And please ask questions if you have questions about this and do some research for yourself. Again, like we're all responsible for our own health. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what I do and what I see works for other people. But when we're doing this every day, typically I start seeing digestive issues go down immediately. So constipated people start actually pooping better. People with diarrhea, they start pooping less and better. Often heartburn's already changing. Sometimes skin is already cleaning up. Bloat is already going away. We're pooping more often and your bowel movement should become fluffier, fuller, more satisfying, and more complete feeling. So in that way, doing this combo as an everyday ritual, whether it's for a chunk of time or you want to carry psyllium husks throughout life with you, absolutely perfect. It's great for you, and there's no damage done with long-term supplementation with this, okay? So aside from drinking more water and introducing psyllium and bentonite on a daily basis, let's talk food quickly here. So food... Oh, goodness. Everything that we put in our mouth, our body's always having a reaction to. Everything that we put in our mouth, it's like it's taking us closer to vibrancy and wellness and rebuilding, or it's taking us in the direction of lacking balance and incoherence internally and inflammation, basically. So we do want to become more diligent with how we're eating, because if we don't, we're never going to change our lives or change our bodies or experience better health or better clarity or the weight that we want our body to be. It all comes down to all of these little choices of ours. So when it comes to food, I have just basic guidelines that I get folks to go by in the beginning. And so number 1, we want more fruits and veggies in the diet, okay? So wherever you can, as your snack or whatnot, grab a piece of fruit. Don't grab crap, grab fruit, or get a really good fruit smoothie in once a day and get in salad wherever you can. So I love having smoothies or like a fresh vegetable juice for breakfast. And then dinner time is I always make sure that I have a massive salad with whatever I'm eating. That way it's I know I'm getting in the veggies that are full of water, they're full of fiber, they're full of nutrition, it's raw, all of that. Okay, so we want more raw fruits and veggies in our diet wherever we can put them. Let me back up, because they are so good for the digestive tract. The fruits and veggies, those are full of what your body needs to rebuild itself. It's full of the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, the things that actually clean out your cells, clean out your fat cells, the things that actually rehabilitate your gut. It's always going to be your fruits and veggies are up there no matter what. And then aside from that, we do want to start reducing the things that we generally do that are creating a lot more mucus, congestion, and inflammation in the body. Because whenever we're eating these things, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. The body's constantly trying to rebuild itself. But if we keep putting things in our mouth that create a whole bunch of extra work for the body, it's like healing isn't going to easily happen. Weight loss isn't going to easily happen. Reduction of symptoms and illnesses isn't going to easily happen, okay? So we want to eat better. So the things that we want to start limiting, reducing, and ideally just avoiding. But we start where we're at, and baby steps matter. Baby steps matter the most because these little steps turn into big life changes, okay? So we want to be reducing anything that is processed. We don't want to be eating deep fried foods. We want to be limiting and reducing the breads, the wheat products, the cereals, the grains, and definitely like the dairy, the cheese, the yogurts, the milk, the butters, and pork and red meat. Like we really want to be reducing all of that. However, there's also a quality thing that I talk to all of my people about. And quality being that like if we are going to be consuming animal products or dairy, it's like we want to be going best quality that we can, okay? I'm not too outspoken regarding eating meat and specific diets and veganism and vegetarianism and everything. Like I've kind of worn all hats myself in this life, but regardless of what you choose to eat, it's just really important to know what you've has been eating and how the animals that you might choose to eat have lived. So in that way, I mean, we don't want to be eating cows that have been eating genetically modified Monsanto corn as feed, and they've been shot up with all of these antibiotics and hormones and everything. Because you eat an animal's tissue who's been through all of that, you're getting the hormones and the antibiotics and the GMO feed into your own body, and that's going to screw with your gut and your hormones, so these ways it really matters. So if we are doing anything dairy or meat related animal products, we want to be going high quality, organic, grass fed, pasture raised where we can. We want to go highest quality always on those things, or generally just don't even eat them, okay? Another podcast that I have coming up soon is the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. So when we're talking fruits and veggies, I want you to tune into that, and that's going to teach you everything you need to know about what veggies and fruits need to be organic if we're going to eat them, and what is really fine to just buy conventionally, okay? So tune in for that, link in the show notes here. And so we really just want to start eating better. But number one, drinking way more water every single day. And number two, starting to take the psyllium husks and the liquid bentonite clay, okay? And, the diet comes into check as we go. It doesn't have to be a thing that you have to be eating perfectly before you begin colon hydrotherapy. Honestly, it's like the psyllium and bentonite and drinking enough water and also getting a really good probiotic into you. Those are the best first steps. And then once you actually start the process of cleansing out your gut, it's going to be a lot easier immediately to make better food choices. Like you're not going to want to paint shitty things onto this beautiful, pristine canvas after you start colon hydrotherapy, okay? So that is that. So as much as overall diet doesn't matter too much while you're prepping, in just like the couple days beforehand, like absolutely try to be like less meat, less grain, less dairy, because we want you to be as like the least amount congested as possible, okay? But especially like in the 2 days before your colonic, that's when it's just, you're going to have a better experience if you are staying away from the breads and the cheeses and the dairies and the meats and everything, and if you are eating primarily more veggies, okay? Sometimes people will actually juice fast for cleansing and for do this beforehand for their colonics. That's a great choice also. However, I really suggest that you've had experience cleansing and juice fasting previous to doing this. So for a lot of people, like it's okay to just, eat pretty as normal, but more fruits, more veggies, less of the crappy stuff, okay? If you are already doing some type of specific cleanse or fast, it is a good idea to let your colon hydrotherapist know, like when you're booking, just they might have some really important information for you or, perspective that you hadn't thought of before. And just, it's a good idea to check in for that. When people come for their very first colonic, and if these people are not people that have been like really, really healthy before, and if they've had a lot of health issues, I do still suggest that they like eat before they come, not like a really big meal and not immediately before they come. But I don't want you to come having fasted like most of the day if that's not something that you typically do, because cleansing does take energy. And sometimes I feel like the people that normally eat but they chose not to eat the day of their colonic, it seems like they can kind of start feeling a little bit weaker. So I do want to encourage you to still consume food, like healthy food, but do consume food on the day of your colonic unless it's like very, very first thing in the morning. But always just give your colon therapist a call. And otherwise, for prepping for your colonic, I mean, take good care of yourself. Make sure that, you got a decent sleep the night before, if not a couple nights before. Don't be too nervous about it. Ask whatever questions that you have. And really going in with intention. To me, that matters so much because your mind, your consciousness, you are the conductor of this body. And all the time, all of your cells are listening to you for guidance, right? So like if we're pretty negative often, our bodies probably aren't doing too well. Whereas optimism, breeds a situation in the body that is chemically different. So absolutely coming into your colonic with open-mindedness and a willingness to experience something new. And also really with the intention that, it's safe for me to release. It is safe for me to let go. I'm okay to let go of these things that no longer serve me. Affirmations like that are very, very powerful to prepare your body, your mind, and your spirit for this experience that you're about to embark upon, because really, again, it does influence all aspects of us. So on the day of your actual appointment, that first appointment is typically going to be a bit longer because the colon hydrotherapist is probably going to have you fill out a waiver, going to explain how the equipment works, what you should be expecting, all of that. And so again, the way that I operate is that, I am an IACT certified colon hydrotherapist who is insured, and I've been in this realm nearly a decade at this point, but we want to be making sure, again, that they are using FDA approved medical devices, and especially that whatever water supply they're using, that it's getting filtered in a number of ways before it does enter your body. Okay, so for instance, my setup, I've got multiple sediment filters, a carbon filter, and an ultraviolet light filter, because that is going to kill any like pathogens and bacteria in the water, which of course again is super important, because when we put that water into the colon, one of the jobs of the colon is to absorb that moisture back out and into the body. So we want to be making sure that we are going to the right type of practitioner who is using the right equipment and who has plenty of experience. Okay, not like this isn't regulated everywhere in America right now, that some people that are doing this as a business may not necessarily have appropriate training and things like that. So you always, honestly, you want to do your homework with it, because again, this is something that is such a gift to the body and so important for all functions and systems of the body. But we want to make sure, of course, that we're just going about it in the right way. And so again, we've got closed systems, which is what I personally use and prefer. And then there's also open systems that it's a different experience. You get a lot more kind of like alone time and on your own. And it's kind of more of a constant flow of release and filling. And, some people prefer that. Some people don't like that. You find what fits best for you. And just like as far as colon hydrotherapists go, like you go to your first yoga class and maybe the teacher didn't jive with you, but that doesn't mean that yoga's not for me and yoga can't help me. It's just you got to find the right practitioner for you. And it's very, very similar with colon hydrotherapy. So the process of colon hydrotherapy itself, it's very graceful, it's very easy, it's very simple. And honestly, when you just think these things through, it makes perfect sense why we choose to do colon hydrotherapy. So how we do it and how I typically do it with most of my clients is I generally start with about a 65-minute session. So that's actual therapy time of them being on the massage table, participating with me in the filling and the releasing. So sometimes the sessions end up being shorter if somebody, just feels like that was the right amount of time for them. Sometimes if a person is still heavily releasing, we will go a little bit longer. But in general, 65 minutes to start is a really good amount of therapy time. Some therapists do 40-minute sessions, but for me, at least where I am in the Bible Belt of America, where I must say there's a lot of grits and fried chicken and soda and things like that, where I am here at 40 minutes, that's when the session is normally taking quite a crescendo, quite a lot of release happening there. And I don't want to be sending you home really without your body evacuating as much as it is comfortable and desiring to on that given day. So to actually hook up a client to this apparatus that's going to help cleanse out their body, it's honestly a really simple
process. It's very simple. I know a lot of people at first get really like nervous, worried about this part because, you know, there's a speculum that goes into your rectum, and most of us have like a lot of fear and stigma and taboo around any of that conversation. But I must tell you that like that is the easiest, simple little part to this whole thing that people get really nervous before, yet it's really easy. It's over really quick, and it's not nearly as uncomfortable as most people are going to worry that it is. And as a colon hydrotherapist, I know not everybody practices this way, but we are not supposed to put the speculum in your own body because we're not doctors. We are not supposed to be putting anything in anybody's holes. And so that being said, personally, I never have to witness the rectum or butthole of a client because it's like once we lubricate the speculum and I show you how it works, it's just much easier for you to put it inside of your own body than it is for me because, of course, you can feel the angle of it and where it's going. And honestly, again, it is a very simple, easy thing to do. And so once that is inside of you, we end up, I hook up the rest of the hoses, you roll over onto your back. I love giving abdominal massage during this session while your body's releasing. It gives us, it really helps with cramping. It really helps move things out. And we get a lot more moving in your session. And it's great for organs. It's great for blood flow. It's great to help break everything up and get it to move out. So when we actually start the process of filling, we start just very, very slowly with like a little bit of water in, and then we release that. And then we let in a little bit more water when you're comfortable and release it. And, you know, session one for me is like there's a lot for you to experience and for you to understand and learn. And then you've got, you know, a lot of sensations, new sensations generally for people. So there's different aspects of that to have your awareness on. And as much as you're learning a new situation for your body in that time, I'm also learning and recognizing the way that your body wants to release because, you know, everybody comes in and they've got a very different story in their belly. And, you know, lifestyle is different and emotional holding is different. And, you know, each person releases so beautifully different that it's my job to discern and to feel out that as soon as possible as well. So we really begin working together where we're tapping into what you're feeling and when it feels like it's enough water. And that, you know, I can't explain what that is to you with my voice right here, other than, you know, there'll be moments of kind of urgency or it just feels like a bowel movement really wants to move quickly. But as soon as it's feeling like it is enough water, we release the water and any slight pressure that you're feeling comes off immediately. And really good equipment has a temperature, what would you call that? Like other than a thermometer, it has like we can adjust the temperature, we can adjust the flow control of water. My equipment does come with a pressure gauge as well, so I'm always very aware of what's happening inside the body. This is actually like, it is such a safe and easy therapy that honestly, like everybody ought to be doing this. But when we are starting, we go in very gradually and we really work with your own pacing and your own timing. So you're never feeling rushed. And, you know, because we aren't wanting to be aggressive to the colon in any way. The colon is such an organ of perception because remember, you know, a huge amount of our nervous system is in the colon. So we're not wanting to be jarring or brash or abrupt with colon hydrotherapy. The goal is to keep you and your pelvis as comfortable as possible, to keep you deep into a deep belly breath because that is your best way of participating with me. And we keep you just comfortable and relaxed, and we be very gradual and very slow with the body, and the body will just release wonderfully in its own timing when it's ready. You know, this is a very interesting thing because when we're rehabilitating the colon, and truly this is rehabilitating the colon as a muscular organ. That's why we use this therapy for paraplegics and quadriplegics and geriatrics and people who have lost muscular and nervous control over the bowel. We rehabilitate that, but it's something that happens free of the brain. So when we're filling you up with water and releasing and filling, there's no way that you can just like think yourself into releasing it. You know, it's like my personality takes a back seat. Your personality takes a back seat. And instead we breathe and we listen to your body and we wait for your body to release in its own perfect timing. And that's honestly how the session goes. Normally, for most people, it's going to take a little bit of back and forth of slowly filling and releasing and slowly filling and releasing and filling and releasing. And then, like, without much really, like, other than water releasing. And then you start to get a bit of a background brewy feeling. And brewy as in, like, I always think of like a cauldron that's brewing up some type of stormy poop soup or something. But you get this kind of like background brewy feeling, which, I mean, it could almost feel like a diarrhea feeling, but then you start feeling it right before your body starts releasing. And then your body starts releasing. And that feels so relieving and so deflating in a really amazing way. And then typically when your body's going to be releasing, it starts actually releasing in waves. So some women have also almost likened this to contraction in labor, how it's like, you know, your body will release and then everything calms. And then you feel it coming on again, and there's another release, and then it calms again. And sometimes this can happen in multiple waves, and it's really just another way to experience these cyclic undulations of what the natural state of the body is. And so anyways, we just do this again and again throughout the therapy session in whatever timing feels best for you. And never come in with expectations, because we're always meeting your body exactly where it's at this moment of cleansing and healing and rebuilding, depending on where you're at energetically, emotionally, and spiritually, and what you've eaten in the last days and how hydrated we are. And you know, there's so many variables that are going to determine what a colonic feels like, that there's no point in even trying to think about it or worry about it. It's like more so just be present with each moment, be with your breath with each moment. And regardless of how the session feels, you are always leaving in a less inflamed, more hydrated, more clear, more resilient way. And that is what we want, because again, we know at this point that the gut microbiome determines basically everything in the body. This is your foundation. So anyways, we fill and we release, and we fill and we release, and we do that in your own timing. And then when people do have a lot of constipation, so let's say I've got a woman coming in and she hasn't had a bowel movement in 3, 4, 5, 6 days. At that point, understanding that they're likely going to have some really hard impacted material in their colon, is that, you know, after we've started filling and releasing for about 20 minutes or so, that's always a point where like stuff is quite ready to go. So in that situation, sometimes we will unplug the person from the colon hydrotherapy device and get them to go sit on the toilet, take some time in there, and then that way they can release as much as they want in privacy, in their own comfort, and really move a lot of waste if it is somebody that has been impacted. So frequently, like often I do that first session is like I get people to take a bathroom break mid-session, because normally the body that's never had a colonic, that has been on the planet, you know, 25, 30, 40, 50 years, has so much waste to release, and it is such a beautiful thing. And so when I have clients, and often where I'm working right now, most of my clientele is women, and a woman will come out of the bathroom and maybe she's been in there 10 minutes and we're midway through her colonic session, and she comes out looking absolutely exhausted and bewildered in the most beautiful, ecstatic way ever, because, you know, she'll tell me, she's like, Ivy, I just filled your toilet bowl 6 times. I have never shit this much in my life. And oh my God, that felt so weird. But oh my God, I feel so good. You know, like, honestly, I hope you can hear me smiling right now, because like those moments somehow are some of the moments that I live for. To actually have another human being feel so relieved of that internal pressure within the body that they didn't even realize that they were experiencing continuously for years, until this moment when they let out 6 toilet bowls. And we, you know, and then they're going to come back and do more of the session and then release way, way more. And that's just day one. That's a great day one. But that, you know, that's the situation that, like, that's why we do this, because you suddenly have these massive releases and you feel more like yourself than maybe you've ever felt. Isn't that insane? Because you think most of us, it's like we got, you know, maybe not healthy guts as infants, but we got cleaned out guts, you know, because we haven't had years and years for anything to accumulate. So, you know, when you've been on this planet for decades without really giving your body the opportunity to truly reset, when we finally do start releasing that, you feel so damn amazing. And that's part of why people say that colon hydrotherapy is addicting. Like, in no way is it actually addicting, okay? You cannot become dependent on this. What we're doing is actually strengthening your colon. It's like muscularly strengthening it. So like literally, if you've been constipated, normally the bowel is weaker, like literally muscularly weaker. We are strengthening you so that you're going to have epic poops all the time. And so, like, if you're using laxatives and stool softeners, those things actually weaken the colon where you will become dependent on using them. But colon hydrotherapy, we are strengthening you from the inside out. So there's no worry about that. And so the reason why people start becoming like addicted to it, it's really a matter of when you start getting out the crud, the bacteria, the yeast, the mucus, the likely parasites that you've had inside of you, and you start feeling how different it feels to be getting that out, your own intuitive wisdom and your own instinct will make you want to keep going for colon hydrotherapy, because it's going to keep feeling so right to rid your body of these things, okay? So it's not an emotional or energetic or physical or behavioral addiction. It's just literally intuition and instinct being like, holy shit, my body has been a cesspool. No wonder I've been fill in the blank. Tired, depressed, moody, overweight, inflamed, sick feeling, exhausted, lethargic, name it. You start, like, literally, if you got rotting poop inside of you, like, of course you're not going to feel good, regardless of the foods that you eat and the supplements that you take and the herbs that you take and the therapies that you do and whatever you do. It's like, if we're not actually cleaning out the actual root of the problem, everything great, do all the good things, but this is the root cause of things that people just aren't aware of, because somehow there's not enough colon hydrotherapists out there. And honestly, going back to, again, when we were talking at the beginning of this conversation, where it's like, if you search the stuff on the internet, you're gonna hear stories and fables about this being dangerous from people that have never experienced it, people that do not understand the gut-brain connection, people that do not understand auto-intoxication or the toxic levels of all of the heavy metals and pesticides and everything that's in our foods and in our pharmaceuticals. And so, like, if anybody's a naysayer about this and they haven't tried it and they haven't put in the time and energy to actually research it, you don't want to listen to that, because, there's propaganda against things like this, because this gets you to heal your body free of medicines, free of doctors, free of anything that system that creates a lot of money for a lot of like wealthy people, right? Like, so much good stuff is actually suppressed. So anyways, that's part of why this podcast exists and why it's going to be super, super, super educational, because there's not enough info like this, again, in podcast world right now. So when you're in your first or any colon hydrotherapy, you've got a couple main ways of participating with me or your colon therapist. And like, number one thing is we want you deep belly breathing pretty much the entire time, okay? Because anytime that you, like when we're filling you up with water and it starts to feel like a little bit of pressure here or there, generally that's because we are rounding a corner in the colon, or the colon has a lot of kind of like pockets in it. So we might be kind of letting water travel from one pocket to the next, and we might be moving around a gas bubble or a piece of poop. And so at any of those moments, it might kind of just momentarily feel a little bit of pressure. But if you're taking deep belly breaths, that deep belly breath is going to help bring the water in, because you're basically, when you inflate your lungs fully, your diaphragm is pushing down on all of your intestines. So, your lungs inflating and deflating and inflating and deflating, they're creating a massage within your colon that really helps the water come in. So if you've taken a deep belly, a breath or two, normally any pressure just totally backs off, and then we're clear sailing and we're still filling nice and slowly. However, if the pressure's just still feels like it feels there and it feels a little bit more urgent, you just let me or the therapist know to release. We release it. All of that pressure comes off immediately. And then we just let you drain and drain and drain and drain and drain and release until it feels time for you that you're ready to take in a little bit more water again. So that's basically what we are doing back and forth and back and forth. So you deep belly breathing, that is the best way for us to keep your gut really calm and your body calm and everything flowing as beautifully as it can. Okay. And otherwise, like, me or your therapist, we're there checking in the whole time. We're guiding the session. We're educating where we can. We're coaching you to breathe through the things. But like, your breath is number one. So breath, number one rule. Number two rule is no pushing. Okay. So when it comes time that it's like you feel that release wants to come, and normally if you were on a toilet, you would be pushing to help it out. In this situation, we're not wanting to push because that's how this situation could get a little bit messier. So it's kind of a weird thing on day one to actually just like breathe through the experience of a bowel movement, but really you get used to it and you just keep breathing through it and breathing through it. And so that being said, like generally this therapy is pretty darn easy and comfortable for most people. So I've got some clients that kind of like zen out and get really deep into their breath and in a meditative state. And we're very quiet and silent throughout the therapy session. And it's a very beautiful experience for me to witness for them. But especially for them, because it can be like, you can work through a lot of emotional stuff during a colonic. Like I always tell my clients that like, tell me about what's stressing you out. Tell me what's going on, like whatever emotional shit you have to let go of, that's what we're doing here. So like this is the time that we want to like let all of our shit out. So I'm a sounding board for all things. And as easy as this therapy is for a lot of people, on the opposite side of that, for those of us that have gone through like a lot more digestive illness and symptoms and, been on a lot of pharmaceuticals in life and whatnot, there are some of us, and I'm including myself in this category, where we can feel a little bit more sensitive at times, in the way of, for myself, sometimes right before my body's getting ready to release, it's like it feels kind of gross in my belly. It feels gross, diarrhea-y, and urgent. And so then my body starts releasing and it can feel kind of gross for a couple moments there. And I breathe through it. But then as soon as my body has actually released that, everything feels so good. Okay. So if there is any discomfort, generally it is very, very momentarily. And we are only putting warm, clean water into the body. So that's nothing that can actually create feelings that of unwell. So what's really happening when that's happening is like we're stirring up shit inside of your body. We're stirring up toxic, acidic shit that has been in there for probably a really long time. And so what you're actually feeling in that point is remembering that your colon is actually like a perceptive sensory organ as well. Is that you're just literally feeling the crap that's inside of you. You're feeling how gross the stuff inside of you that's about to come out is. And that's why as soon as it's out of your body, you feel really, really good again. So just know that it might be possible and it might be likely that you might experience a few moments of like ick in that, but you breathe through them and you will get right out of them. And again, like it is so important for you to clean out whatever crap is stuck in your gut, because that is the stuff that breeds diseases and cancers and like shit that we should not have to suffer with, that we don't have to suffer with. But it means that, again, we have to become more aware and we have to do things like this for ourselves if we don't want to get illnesses and diseases. You have to cleanse out the bowel, okay? You just have to. So that being said, know that, if there can be moments of discomfort, sometimes it gets a little bit crampy, depending on what it is that we're releasing and what we've been eating or how we've been combining our foods. Like, again, there's so many variables, but just know that if there is any discomfort, it's going to be very, very momentary. For how darn good you're going to feel after this session, it is worth every second of slight discomfort, I promise. And also know that never during this experience should you ever be feeling pain. Okay, so same thing like in yoga. Again, I'm going to liken it to that if you're really doing yoga, there's going to be moments where you're verging on the edge of discomfort. And do you know what you're going to do in those moments? You're going to breathe into that discomfort. You're going to breathe into your body, and you're really going to feel, you're going to feel and let your breath guide you through that experience as your body softens. And so just very similar thing with colon hydrotherapy, that it's okay to feel sensation, but we should never actually be in pain at any point. Okay, and that takes me to, I want to tell you some of my favorite gifts about colon hydrotherapy, the things that I experienced in my life as I adopted this practice of self-care, and something that I witness in most of the people that I work with. For the people that are really willing to do that inner work, it is so darn beautiful. one of the really crazy things about this therapy is that when we're filling up the colon with water, you actually, and you start to map out your colon because you can feel it from the inside. So you get a lot more closely and intimately connected with yourself as a system of organs, and specifically with your digestive tract in a way that most people generally aren't. So that's a really beautiful thing that even people that don't have a lot of body awareness, I see them next time I see them and they tell me that like, oh, like when I'm eating my food, I can tell where it is in my body, and I feel a lot more connected to it, and I'm really not overeating so much anymore because I can really like feel it in my body. And when I reach for this food that I normally think that I want, I just don't want it anymore, and I know what my body needs right now, and it's really weird. So I hear these conversations all the time, and it's just so beautiful. And another thing that I experience as a practitioner who's witnessed hundreds of bodies do this over time is that as we start removing layer upon layer of old impacted waste out of the gut, people get clearer in all different aspects of life, but especially again with that mind, body, and even heart connection, where like we can feel more of what's happening in the body. We're more aware of ourselves. We're more aware of what our body's actually feeling like inside and our relationship to our food. And again, you can touch your food or you can look at your food and you intuitively know, or you start to learn to know how that's actually going to make your body feel. And so it really takes away a lot of the, excuse my F-bomb, but like a lot of like the mind fuckery around food that a lot of us have, especially if it's, if we're managing or trying to manage our weight or some illnesses or anything, we can get like really crazy in our heads around food, and in our minds, and different approaches and different ways to understand it, and, different diets and blah, blah, blah. When it's like, nah, we just want to do what your body wants to do. And the more that we can stack the odds in the body's favor and get out of our own way and provide the body appropriate support, and stop shooting ourselves in the foot with the things that we do or the shitty foods that we eat, et cetera, that is how we create an extremely healing place for the body. So some more gifts, immediate gifts that you receive from this process. And I obviously want to make you feel really good about this and let you know of like, what are the realistic, amazing things that you can probably expect to experience very, very immediately after your first set of colonics, even like after your first two, because again, the process, it's not always the most comfortable in your first or second session. And you think of going to a massage, going for acupuncture, going for like the things that are good for you. Most of those things, they make them feel good immediately. With colon hydrotherapy, we're playing the long game. You know what I mean? We're actually rehabilitating your body, rebuilding your body, and cleansing your body from the inside out. So this is something that we do because we have a greater understanding of what our body is capable of, the healing that it's capable of, and the people that we want to be, and in a certain quality of health and vitality and vibrancy for the long run. We do this, yes, for immediate benefits, but we really do this because we've got a bigger picture of why this is, again, absolutely necessary to live a disease-free life, to live a life without auto-intoxication, without symptoms, without problems, okay? So this is about the long con. That is why we do colon hydrotherapy, and the short con as well. But to go back with more gifts of what you can expect. So more of the things that I start seeing immediately from people. So, sometimes this is just in the difference of, because I always start 2 days back to back, sometimes that morning of day 2, they're already telling me these really, really good things. One of the biggest things that I hear, and normally this is after the first session. So like, an hour and a half into knowing me, this is where we're at. And one of the biggest things is that people feel that internal pressure is so significantly reduced. And again, like sometimes people are aware that they have this internal pressure, but oftentimes it's like because you're so used to it, because like literally you've had it every second of every minute of every hour, of every day of every week of every month of years in a row. So you don't get an experience of what that pressure not being inside is like. So when we do start releasing out of the body, there is this spaciousness that is very beautiful and very brilliant, like this internal emptiness or spaciousness. And I mean that not in like a dysfunctional way. I mean that in like a beautiful, oh my goodness, my body feels different inside, better inside, like more. I can breathe deeper. I can bend easier. I can twist easier. Like being in my body is now a radically different experience than it was an hour ago and, 4 pounds of shit ago. So it's such a beautiful thing. Another thing that I start seeing immediately is better sleep. So after every colonic that you have, and especially after that first colonic, normally you're going to sleep hard and good. So free up some extra time to like sleep in or get to bed earlier, because like your body really needs you to be asleep in order for it to do that deep internal work that it wants to do. The more that you can be laying down and like just resting, or ideally asleep, that is the time that your body gets to do the repair work. So when we begin colon hydrotherapy, I really want to support and influence you to listen to your body. So it might mean that you're like a bit more tired in the beginning, and that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. That's your body saying like, hey, you go to sleep so we can do the work that you've asked us to do. Okay, that work can't really happen so well while you're awake and doing all the things that you're doing all the day, so please get some sleep for that process. So generally we're sleeping really well after colon hydrotherapy, and especially like if you've been a person that has trouble sleeping regardless, whether it's trouble falling asleep or trouble staying asleep, normally that's going to have to do with your body probably being dehydrated, gut inflammation going on, and generally parasites, okay? Because they're more active at night, and most everybody that I work with, it's very clear and obvious to see for all parties involved that most people do have intestinal parasites. And that's not a big scary thing. I'll teach so much on that because it's relevant to most of us. But anyways, like because colon hydrotherapy is removing so much inflammatory waste in the body, it's like your body is able to rest deeper at night and better. The only time that I see that people are not sleeping well after a colonic, and this is just, food for thought in case it ends up being your experience, is that the only time that I'm seeing people not have like this deeply gorgeous, deep sleep after a colonic is when they are killing off parasites overnight. And so when we do your first colonic, your gut is going to retain some water overnight. So your colon is going to keep soaking whatever is like caked on and dehydrated in there. And that soaking process is really important. Think of a lasagna pan, and you bake that lasagna so damn good. But, if you're going to scrub that clean, if you soak it in the sink overnight, it's going to scrub a lot easier, right? So similar idea in the gut. And when we do have intestinal parasites, which again, most of us do, parasites can be from, basically microscopic size to very long. But, if there are any in the gut and then your gut's retaining some water overnight, there's a really good chance of us actually drowning some of them out. Okay, so some more gifts, immediate gifts that you receive from this process. And I obviously want to make you feel really good about this and let you know of like, what are the realistic, amazing things that you can probably expect to experience very, very immediately after your first set of colonics, even like after your first two. Because again, the process, it's not always the most comfortable in your first or second session. And you think of going to a massage, going for acupuncture, going for like the things that are good for you. Most of those things, they make them feel good immediately. With colon hydrotherapy, we're playing the long game. You know what I mean? We're actually rehabilitating your body, rebuilding your body, and cleansing your body from the inside out. So this is something that we do because we have a greater understanding of what our body is capable of, the healing that it's capable of, and the people that we want to be, and in a certain quality of health and vitality and vibrancy for the long run. We do this, yes, for immediate benefits, but we really do this because we've got a bigger picture of why this is, again, absolutely necessary to live a disease-free life, to live a life without auto-intoxication, without symptoms, without problems, okay? So this is about the long con. That is why we do colon hydrotherapy and the short con as well. But to go back with more gifts of what you can expect. So more of the things that I start seeing immediately from people. So, I mean, sometimes this is just in the difference of, because I always start 2 days back to back, sometimes that morning of day 2, they're already telling me these really, really good things. One of the biggest things that I hear, and normally this is after the first session. So like, an hour and a half into knowing me, this is where we're at. And one of the biggest things is that people feel that internal pressure is so significantly reduced. And again, like sometimes people are aware that they have this internal pressure, but oftentimes it's like because you're so used to it, because like literally you've had it every second of every minute of every hour, every day of every week of every month of years in a row. So you don't get an experience of what that pressure not being inside is like. So when we do start releasing and releasing and releasing out of the body, there is this spaciousness that is very beautiful and very brilliant, like this internal emptiness or spaciousness. And I mean that not in like a dysfunctional way. I mean that in like a beautiful, oh my goodness, my body feels different inside, better inside, like more. I can breathe deeper. I can bend easier. I can twist easier. Like being in my body is now a radically different experience than it was an hour ago and, 4 pounds of shit ago. So it's such a beautiful thing. Another thing that I start seeing immediately is better sleep. So after every colonic that you have, and especially after that first colonic, normally you're going to sleep hard and good. So free up some extra time to like sleep in or get to bed earlier, because like your body really needs you to be asleep in order for it to do that deep internal work that it wants to do. The more that you can be laying down and like just resting, or ideally asleep, that is the time that your body gets to do the repair work. So when we begin colon hydrotherapy, I really, really want to support and influence you to listen to your body. So it might mean that you're like a bit more tired in the beginning, and that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. That's your body saying like, hey, you go to sleep so we can do the work that you've asked us to do. Okay, that work can't really happen so well while you're awake and doing all the things that you're doing all the day, so please get some sleep for that process. So generally we're sleeping really well after colon hydrotherapy, and especially like if you've been a person that has trouble sleeping regardless, whether it's trouble falling asleep or trouble staying asleep, normally that's going to have to do with your body probably being dehydrated, gut inflammation going on, and generally parasites, okay? Because they're more active at night, and most everybody that I work with, it's very clear and obvious to see for all parties involved that most people do have intestinal parasites. And that's not a big scary thing. I'll teach so much on that because it's relevant to most of us. But anyways, like, because colon hydrotherapy is removing so much inflammatory waste in the body, it's like your body is able to rest deeper at night and better. The only time that I see that people are not sleeping well after a colonic, and this is just, food for thought in case it ends up being your experience, is that the only time that I'm seeing people not have like this deeply gorgeous, deep sleep after a colonic is when they are killing off parasites overnight. And so when we do your first colonic, your gut is going to retain some water overnight. So your colon is going to keep soaking whatever is like caked on and dehydrated in there. And that soaking process is really important. Think of a lasagna pan, and you bake that lasagna so damn good. But, if you're going to scrub that clean, if you soak it in the sink overnight, it's going to scrub a lot easier, right? So similar idea in the gut. And when we do have intestinal parasites, which again, most of us do, parasites can be from, basically microscopic size to very long. But, if there are any in the gut and then your gut's retaining some water overnight, there's a really good chance of us actually drowning some of them out. This is something that is so common that happens after both colonics and enemas. And as gross as that might seem to you right now, it's really important to get them out if they are inside of you. And often I even suggest if somebody is feeling detoxy to actually take another dose of the psyllium husks and the liquid bentonite clay, just for the sake of helping like grab and move out and absorb toxicity of everything that your body is in the process of getting moving, because this is stuff that clearly your body has not been able to get rid of on its own previously. And also for that first day to like drink so much water to stay very hydrated. We want your blood being like nice and thin, and we want your kidneys working really, really well and feeling support so that you're not just shitting out this badness, but you're also going to be like urinating out any toxicity that's in blood. And we really just want to keep the body very hydrated during this process so that all of your cells are in like a most healing and balanced situation for this rehabilitation internally that we're doing. And for food that first night, it's like we want you just to eat really gently. Eat comforting foods, but not like the shitty comforting foods. Eat the good comforting foods, okay? So if you want to have like a bit of fruit or like a really nice soup or like some sauteed veggies, like we want to keep it light. We want to keep it easy. We want to keep it gentle. No crap in the diet, don't go deep fried, don't go pizza, don't go alcohol, like feel like you actually had something really good done inside of you and you just want to put good soothing things in there. Sometimes people don't really eat after a colonic, but I prefer that my clients do eat later in that day after their colonic, because and that it is a lot of fruit or vegetable mass, because that vegetable mass with all the hydration in it and vitamins and minerals and all of the fiber, that's going to really help also move things through your body. So absolutely eat some really good food. After a colonic, personally, I prefer cooked vegetables, or at least slightly cooked vegetables over raw. Sometimes I feel that like raw vegetables, like a salad, it's a little bit extra work for my body, and just warm, comforting, very like liquidy foods feel great for me. So I always go for the broths, the soups, the sweet potatoes, the squashes, just really warming, nourishing foods like that. So I believe that I've told you most everything that I wanted to tell you. If you do have questions about this process, like always feel free to reach out to me. Email address is in the show notes. And, wherever you are, if you're near me, sometimes I have people travel to come cleanse with me. However, you can always find colon hydrotherapists near you generally. We're scattered all over the place, but you do want to make sure that you are going to somebody that is very experienced, that has appropriate equipment, that really does know what they're doing and know how to guide the journey. For that reason, because, everybody does things differently, and I feel very good about the way that I work with people. I do also coach people at a distance. So the people that can't come to me for colon hydrotherapy, I coach a lot of those people, and we actually do still this incredible healing, internal, regenerative, and rehabilitative work to change the body and change the life. Just we do that from a distance, but also with them doing at-home enemas to be supportive, or finding a local colon hydrotherapist near them anyways. I hope that this episode has been interesting for you and supportive for you if you are about to embark on the journey of cleansing and healing. There are so many gifts to be had within this realm of holistic therapy that honestly, it is so absolutely worth trying. Absolutely. And especially, again, if you're having any types of issues in your body, or challenges with food, challenges with weight, challenges with sleeping, anxiety, depression, for all reasons, honestly, we all need to be doing this right now. It's so necessary. It will change your life. It absolutely will change your life if you come at it, of course, with a really good attitude. And so thank you all for spending this time with me today. I love you all very, very much. I hope that this episode finds you well, and that you feel encouraged and supported and excited to begin getting to know your body differently and better and more intimately. So I will see you in the next show. But if this podcast was helpful for you, if this episode was helpful, if you know somebody that really needs some cleansing and some work, please send it to them. And better yet, if you will subscribe to it in the iTunes store or wherever it is that we subscribe, so that you keep seeing anytime that I'm putting out a new episode, because I'm going to keep putting out episodes twice a week that are here to support you and teach you and have you learn how to be your own doctor in the ways that we can and ought to for ourselves, okay? And if you did feel some benefit from this podcast for you, please write a review when you can. And that way we can encourage more people to listen so that we can all start healing ourselves and each other again, as we ought to learn how to do. And the only way that that's going to happen is actually if we put in the effort and the attention to learn. So much love to all of you. I will see you in the next episode. Drink your water and have a wonderful day.